I woke up from emergency surgery to 17 missed calls and a text from my mother-in-law that said, "House is mine now." You should have read what you signed. My husband stood at the foot of my hospital bed, not meeting my eyes. Let me back up. 18 months earlier, Linda came to Sunday dinner with a folder full of investment opportunities. This was her third business proposal that month, and Marcus was already reaching for his checkbook before she'd even opened her Louis Vuitton briefcase. "It's a ground floor opportunity," she said, spreading glossy brochures across my dining room table, the one I'd refinished myself after finding it at an estate sale. "Luxury timeshares in Scottsdale. The returns are incredible. I picked up one of the brochures. The company's website had been registered 3 weeks ago. Have you talked to a financial advisor?" Linda's smile tightened. "I don't need someone to tell me how to invest my money." "It's not your money," I said quietly. "It's Marcus's. What's his is mine. I'm his mother." Marcus signed a check for $15,000. The timeshare company dissolved 4 months later. Linda never mentioned it again, but she did mention, frequently, how ungrateful I was, how I didn't understand family, how Marcus deserved someone more supportive. That's when I opened my first separate account. 14 months earlier, I met with David Chen on my lunch break. He'd handled the closing on our house, and I trusted him in that peculiar way you trust people who've seen you cry over interest rates. "I need to restructure how we own our property," I said. Without my husband knowing, David set down his coffee. "That's an unusual request. I have an unusual mother-in-law. Tell me more." I told him about the timeshares, about the emergency car repairs that became a new Lexus, about the way Linda had started asking about our home equity, about refinancing, about whether we'd considered a reverse mortgage. We were 32 and 34. We didn't need a reverse mortgage. "She's going to try something," I said. "I can feel it. And Marcus won't say no to her." David pulled out a legal pad. "Let's talk about LLC structures and operating agreements." We spent 6 weeks building the fortress, converting from joint tenancy to tenancy in common, establishing Hartwell Holdings LLC, named after my grandmother, the only person who'd ever told me to protect myself first, transferring my ownership share to the LLC, creating a leaseback agreement that made us tenants in our own home. "This is incredibly sophisticated," David said during our final meeting. "Most people don't think this far ahead. Most people don't have Linda as a mother-in-law. Does Marcus know?" "Marcus thinks I'm being paranoid. He said so when I suggested a prenup. I signed the last document. But he signed the prenup anyway because I told him we'd lose the house if we didn't." Smart. That's what my mother said before she died. Be smart, not just nice. I dated my signature. I've been trying to be both. But if I have to choose, I'm choosing smart. 9 months earlier, Linda started showing up unannounced. First once a week, then twice, then every few days. She'd walk through our house like she was taking inventory, touching things, measuring spaces with her eyes. "This front bedroom would make an excellent office," she said one Thursday afternoon, standing in what we used as a guest room, or a craft space. "The light is perfect. Do you craft?" I asked. I could start. She opened the closet, examined the storage. "When you and Marcus upgrade to something bigger, I could see myself very comfortable here." "We're not upgrading. We just bought this place 3 years ago." "Well," she smiled, "things change." Marcus noticed my mood that night. "You're quiet. Your mother was measuring our guest room today, mentally decorating it. She's just interested in our lives. She's planning to live here. Don't be dramatic." He kissed my forehead like I was a child having a nightmare. "Mom has her own place. She's fine." 3 weeks later, Linda's landlord called Marcus. She was 4 months behind on rent and about to be evicted. Marcus paid $7,800 to catch her up, draining our vacation fund. "It's just this once," he said. It was never just once with Linda. 6 months earlier, I started documenting everything. Every financial request, every unexpected visit, every comment about our house, our equity, our future plans. My paralegal noticed the folder on my desk. "Making a case?" "Just keeping records. Of what?" "I'm not sure yet." I added Linda's latest text to the file, A message asking if Marcus had thought about adding her name to our homeowner's insurance policy. But when I need it, I'll have it. Linda quit her job at the credit union in July. She was 59, not old enough for retirement benefits, with minimal savings. Marcus found out when she asked him to co-sign a lease on a new apartment. Just temporary, she said over dinner at our house, where she'd started keeping a toothbrush in the guest bathroom, until my consulting business takes off. What consulting business? I asked. I'm still developing the concept. She sipped the wine Marcus had poured, a $45 bottle she'd brought and would leave behind. But with my experience in customer service and finance, I'm sure something will materialize. Nothing materialized. 6 weeks later, Marcus was paying her rent directly. 4 months earlier. We need to talk about your mother, I said on a Sunday morning. Marcus was reading the paper, or pretending to. What about her? She's going through our financial documents. I found bank statements in her purse when she asked me to get her phone. She probably grabbed them by accident. They were highlighted, Marcus. With notes in the margins. You went through her purse? She asked me to get her phone from her purse. The statements were right there. I sat down across from him. She's planning something. You're paranoid. That word again. Paranoid. As if pattern recognition was a mental illness. As if seeing someone study your assets like a shopping list was irrational. Maybe, I said. But I'm not wrong. 3 months earlier, Linda started bringing papers to family dinners. Just in case you want to look these over, she'd say, sliding documents across the table. Refinancing applications, home equity loan pre-approvals, power of attorney forms for emergencies. You're young and healthy, she'd say, smiling at me. But accidents happen. It's smart to be prepared. Marcus always took the papers. I always made sure they disappeared into recycling. But one night, I photocopied everything first. 2 months earlier, David called me at work. Your mother-in-law consulted with someone in our building about property transfers. How do you know? The attorney's paralegal is dating my paralegal. She mentioned it at lunch. Thought it was weird that someone was asking about transferring property from an incapacitated owner. My stomach dropped. What did the attorney tell her? That it would require specific documentation. Power of attorney, quitclaim deeds, preferably signed before any incapacitation. He paused. She asked about medical emergencies specifically. Jesus, I can't prove anything. But I thought you should know. I thanked him and hung up. Then I called my doctor and scheduled every preventive screening available. Mammogram, colonoscopy, full blood panel. If something was going to go wrong with my health, I wanted maximum warning. 6 weeks earlier, Marcus came home excited. Mom found a great opportunity for us. What kind of opportunity? An investment property. A fixer-upper we could renovate and flip. He showed me the listing. A disaster of a house 2 hours away, priced at $180,000. She has connections with contractors. We could do this together. We don't have $180,000. We have equity. We could get a home equity loan. On our primary residence? To buy a property with your mother? I stared at him. Marcus, we'd be putting our home at risk. You never want to do anything with my family. I want to keep our house. He left the room angry. Linda texted me an hour later. Marcus says you're blocking our investment. I'm disappointed. I didn't respond. 3 weeks earlier, the papers appeared on our kitchen counter one Tuesday morning. A neat stack flagged with sticky notes marked "Sign here." Home equity loan application. Updated deed with Linda's name added as joint owner. Power of attorney naming Marcus and Linda as co-agents. Marcus was already dressed for work. Mom dropped those off. She said if we sign today, we can get started on the investment property by next month. I'm not signing these. Why not? Because your mother's name is on our deed, Marcus. She'd own a third of our house. She's family. She's not my family. She's yours. I picked up the papers. And she's not going on the deed to property I restored with my own hands. You're being selfish. I'm being sane. I took the papers to David that afternoon. He read through them carefully, his expression darkening with each page. "This is a transfer of marital property without spousal consent," he said. "If you signed this under duress, it would be voidable. But if he signed it alone," he looked up, "these need your signature too. Both of you have to consent. What if I was incapacitated? Then whoever has power of attorney could sign for you." He tapped the POA document, which this conveniently provides. "So if something happened to me, they could sign everything. Transfer the house, drain your accounts, whatever they wanted." He handed the papers back. "Don't sign these, and maybe don't be alone with either of them for a while." 2 weeks earlier, Linda's visits intensified. Every day now, sometimes twice a day, she'd let herself in with the key Marcus had given her, make herself comfortable on my couch, and wait. "Just wanted to see my son," she'd say when I came home from work. "No law against that." She started commenting on my appearance. "You look tired. Are you feeling all right?" "I'm fine. You should see a doctor. You never know what could be wrong." The way she said it made my skin crawl. 1 week earlier, I updated my will, added David as my healthcare proxy, changed my beneficiaries on every account, removing Marcus where legally possible, wrote a sealed letter detailing Linda's behavior and left it with my sister. "If something happens to me," I told Rebecca, "open this. You're scaring me." "Good. Be scared. But don't tell Marcus I was here." The day of the pain started during my client meeting. Sharp, localized, getting worse by the minute. I excused myself to the bathroom and called my sister. "Something's wrong. I need to go to the hospital." "I'll drive you." "No. Call an ambulance. I want documentation of everything that happens from this moment forward." Rebecca's voice shook. "You think they did something to you?" "I think I have appendicitis, but I want records." The paramedics arrived at my office. My boss rode with me to the hospital, calling Marcus from the ambulance. I heard her leave a voicemail. "Your wife is having emergency surgery. St. Mary's Hospital, 4th floor." In the pre-op bay, I made the nurse document everything. "I need you to note that I'm conscious and oriented. That I don't consent to anyone signing anything on my behalf except for surgical consent. Ma'am, that's standard. Please write it down. Exactly that. Timestamp it." She did, looking concerned. But she did it. They put me under at 3:47 p.m. My appendix had ruptured. I woke up at 7:23 p.m. Marcus was in my room. Linda was not, but her perfume lingered. She'd been there recently. My phone was on the bedside table. 17 missed calls, 9 voicemails. And that text? "House is mine now. You should have read what you signed." I looked at Marcus. He looked at the floor. "What did you sign?" I asked. "Mom said you'd agreed. Before surgery. She had papers. I was unconscious. She said you'd discussed it. That you'd pre-signed everything but the surgeon's consent form. The audacity was almost impressive." "Almost." "Show me," I said. He pulled papers from his briefcase. Quitclaim deed transferring my half of the property to Linda. Power of attorney giving her authority over my assets. Authorization for Marcus to act on my behalf. All with signatures that looked remarkably like mine. When did I supposedly sign these? This morning. Mom said you stopped by her apartment before work. I was showing a waterfront property this morning. My client can verify. I took photos of every document with my phone. These are forgeries. Marcus, Mom wouldn't. Your mother forged my signature to steal my house while I was in emergency surgery. I sent the photos to David. You helped her? I didn't know. You didn't ask. You just trusted that she'd have papers ready the moment I was vulnerable enough. I closed my eyes. Get out! We need to talk about this. We'll talk. With lawyers present. Get out! He left. Linda didn't come back that night, probably sensing the temperature had changed. I texted David. Execute everything. She forged my signature. I have photos. His response came immediately. On it. Don't sign anything. Don't agree to anything. I'm filing an emergency injunction tomorrow morning. Then I called the police. The day after, the detective was sympathetic but realistic. Forgery is hard to prove when it's family. They'll claim you consented verbally, that you knew about the documents. I have hospital records showing I was unconscious. I have my paralegal confirming I was at work all morning. I have texts from my mother-in-law threatening me. I showed him everything. What else do you need? A forensic document examiner. That takes time and money. I have money and time. I accepted the case number he wrote down. File the report. I want it on record. David showed up at noon with a manila envelope. The eviction notices. Want to do the honors? You deliver them. I want official service of process. Both of them. Both of them. I signed the authorization. And David? Make sure Linda gets hers while Marcus is there. I want him to see her face when she realizes she didn't win. 3 days later, Rebecca brought me home from the hospital, not to the house I owned, but to her guest room. David had advised against going home until the eviction was resolved. They could claim you abandoned the property, he said. Better to stay away until the sheriff escorts them out. So I stayed with my sister and monitored the situation remotely. David had installed cameras before serving the papers. With my permission, of course. I owned the property through the LLC. The footage was extraordinary. Marcus opening the certified letter at the kitchen table. His face going pale. Linda snatching it from his hands, reading it twice, then screaming, "She can't do this! The house is mine! I have the deed!" Marcus on the phone, calling lawyer after lawyer, most of them laughing when he explained the situation. One actually hanging up mid-sentence. Linda throwing things. My dishes, the ones I'd collected from antique stores, the ones she'd always hated, smashing against the walls. Marcus trying to calm her. Linda shoving him away. You were supposed to handle her. You said she was weak. You said she'd never fight back. That was interesting. I saved that clip separately. 1 week later, Linda filed an emergency motion claiming adverse possession. Her lawyer, a recent graduate who'd probably taken the case for experience, stood before the judge and argued that Linda had improved the property and maintained a presence that gave her rights. David stood up. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. Your Honor, the respondent has visited the property approximately 47 times in the past 6 months. We have door camera footage of every visit. She has never stayed longer than 4 hours. She has never paid rent, utilities, or property taxes. She has never made any improvements. She has, however, forged the property owner's signature on multiple documents in an attempt to steal said property while the owner was incapacitated in a hospital. He laid out the evidence like laying out a hand of cards, photos of the forged documents, hospital records, my paralegal's testimony, security footage from my office building showing me at work when I supposedly signed papers at Linda's apartment. The judge looked at Linda's lawyer. Counselor, do you have any evidence contradicting this? My client believed that's not evidence. Motion denied. The judge signed the eviction order. The respondents have 30 days to vacate. If they remain after that period, the sheriff will remove them. Linda tried to approach me in the courthouse hallway. David stepped between us. Mrs. Hartwell has a restraining order being filed this afternoon, he said pleasantly. I'd suggest you keep your distance. You can't keep me from my son. I can keep you from my client. What Marcus does is his business. Linda's eyes met mine. I saw the moment she realized I wasn't who she thought I was. Wasn't the pushover daughter-in-law who'd bend eventually. Wasn't the tired woman signing papers in a hospital bed. I smiled. She turned and left. 2 weeks later, Marcus tried negotiating. He called from a number I didn't recognize. I'd blocked his cell. We could work this out, he said. Drop the eviction. I'll make Mom apologize. We'll tear up the papers. The papers are already void. She forged them. Then what's the problem? Why are you doing this? You tried to steal my house, Marcus. While I was in surgery, I didn't know. You didn't care enough to check. I watched people walk past Rebecca's apartment window. Normal people. People whose families didn't forge legal documents. You saw papers and signed them because your mother told you to. You didn't call my lawyer. Didn't call the hospital. Didn't think for 1 second that maybe, just maybe, something was wrong. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Now you live with it. 3 weeks later, the sheriff's escort was scheduled for a Tuesday. I made sure to be there. Linda had packed nothing. She stood in my living room wearing a velour tracksuit I'd never seen before, probably new, probably purchased with Marcus's money, and screamed about injustice. I raised him. I sacrificed everything. This house should be mine! The sheriff's deputy was unmoved. Ma'am, you need to collect your belongings and exit the property. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my concern. You have 30 minutes to pack essentials. Anything left behind becomes property of the owner. Marcus carried boxes in silence. I stood in the doorway and watched. Linda tried one final approach. Tears this time. The performance of a lifetime. Please, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Don't do this to Marcus. He's your husband. He was my husband when he helped you forge my signature. I didn't forge anything. You're lying. I pulled out my phone. Showed her the video David had compiled, her own words, from my security cameras. You were supposed to handle her. You said she was weak. You said she'd never fight back. Her face went white. I have 17 hours of footage, I said. Every threat, every plan, every time you walked through my house like you already owned it. I put my phone away. You were right about one thing. I read what I sign, and I signed very carefully. 1 month later, the divorce proceedings began. Marcus contested everything except the prenup, which was ironclad. David had made sure of that 3 years ago. Linda paid for his lawyer initially. An aggressive attorney who promised to make that bitch pay. He withdrew from the case after I provided evidence of the forgery, the fraud, and Marcus's complicity. The second lawyer was cheaper. He advised Marcus to settle. Marcus refused. Linda was in his ear, promising him they'd win, they'd get the house back, I'd be punished for my betrayal. The judge was less sympathetic. 3 months later, Linda had moved in with Marcus temporarily. They'd rented a 2-bedroom apartment in a complex near the highway. I knew because her Facebook posts, she'd forgotten I had a mutual friend who showed me everything, documented every indignity. Thin walls here. Can hear everything. Management won't fix the AC. Been 3 weeks. When you work your whole life and end up in a place like this. The comments were sympathetic at first. Then someone asked what happened to her job. Someone else asked about her previous apartment. Linda deleted the post. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. I kept the house. Obviously, since I'd always owned it through the LLC. Marcus got his personal belongings and his retirement account. The prenup protected everything else. Linda stopped paying for his lawyer halfway through. She'd run out of money. Her consulting business, which had never existed, certainly wasn't generating income. Marcus's aunt, his father's sister Gloria, called me the day the divorce was final. I always liked you, she said. You were smart, not like the others. What others? Marcus's first girlfriend. Linda drove her off too. And the second one, she learned to see through Linda's act. Gloria laughed. You're the first one who actually beat her at her own game. She made it easy. She got greedy. She always does. That's why my brother divorced her. A pause. Did Marcus ever tell you that? He said his father left. He left Linda. Tried to stay in Marcus's life, but she made it impossible. Poisoned that boy against his own father. Gloria sighed. I hoped you'd be different. Hoped you'd save him from her. I tried. He chose her, I know. But still, thank you for trying. 9 months later, I sold the house in April. The market had turned spectacular, and I'd poured money into renovations. New kitchen with the countertops I'd always wanted. Quartz, warm gray, waterfall edges. Refinished the original hardwood floors myself, spending weekends on my knees with a sander. Hired a landscaper to fix the yard. The house looked like a magazine spread. Linda would have died. Maybe she saw the listing. It was all over the local real estate sites. Stunning 1920s craftsman lovingly restored. $685,000. I'd bought it for $345,000. The buyers were a young couple, pregnant with their first child. They cried during the final walkthrough. It's perfect, the wife said, running her hand along the kitchen counter. Did you do this yourself? Most of it. The tile work, the cabinets, the refinishing. It must be hard to leave. I looked around the house that had caused so much trouble. The house Linda had tried to steal. The house Marcus had helped her claim. Not really, I said. It's just a house. It's more than that. Maybe it was. But I was done protecting it. Done fighting for it. Done letting it define my worth. I hope you're happy here, I said. And I meant it. 1 year later, my downtown condo has floor-to-ceiling windows and a doorman named Robert who screens all my visitors. It's modern, clean, nothing like the craftsman's vintage charm. I don't have to maintain it. Don't have to fix it. Don't have to defend it. I date occasionally. Nothing serious. After Marcus, I'm in no rush. Linda sent a Facebook friend request last month. I let it sit there, neither accepting nor declining. Just there, a little reminder that I see her, I remember, and I choose not to engage. Marcus remarried 6 months ago. Her name is Melissa. She's 28, works in tech, and her mother lives in Singapore. Smart choice, honestly. Linda can't pop over for impromptu visits from 8,000 miles away. I saw the wedding photos online, the same mutual friend. Linda wore a tight dress and too much jewelry. The smile looked forced. Melissa looked happy. I hope she stays that way. 18 months later, I made partner at the firm. My specialty is now asset protection and family law, specifically helping clients protect themselves from predatory family members. Business is booming. A client came in last week. Young woman, late 20s, recently married. Her mother-in-law had started asking about their house, about refinancing, about emergencies and planning ahead. Am I being paranoid? She asked, twisting her wedding ring. My husband says I'm overreacting. I pulled out a legal pad. Tell me everything, she did. The story was different in details but identical in shape. Boundary violations, financial manipulation, a husband who wouldn't say no to his mother. What do you recommend? She asked when she finished. I thought about Linda's text, about Marcus's face when the eviction notice arrived, about standing in my old house, watching them pack, feeling nothing but relief. We're going to set up an LLC, I said, and a trust, and proper operating agreements, and document everything. That sounds expensive. It's cheaper than losing your house. She nodded slowly. My husband won't like it, probably not. But here's what I learned. Some people see preparation as paranoia. They're usually the same people who get surprised when consequences arrive. I slid a contract across my desk. Your choice. Protect yourself now, or rebuild after they've taken everything. She signed. 2 years later, Rebecca hosted Thanksgiving. She invited me knowing I had nowhere else to go. My family is small, and most holidays feel optional now. Gloria was there too. She'd become something like a friend, the way people bond over shared survival of the same storm. Heard from Marcus? She asked over wine. No. You? Christmas card. Generic. Signed by both of them. She shook her head. Linda moved in with them last month. Already? Melissa's mother came to visit, so Linda decided she needed to help too. Marcus couldn't say no. Gloria sipped her wine. I give the marriage 18 months. That's generous. I'm an optimist. We laughed. It felt good. Present day, I'm sitting in my condo, 30 floors up, drinking wine that costs more than Linda's monthly rent. The city spreads below me, lights twinkling like possibilities. Sometimes I think about how different things could have gone. If I'd been trusting instead of careful, if I'd signed those papers Linda kept leaving around, if I hadn't restructured the property ownership months before she made her move, I'd be starting over right now. New apartment, new life, watching someone else live in the house I'd restored. Instead, Linda started over. And I'm here. I don't smile about it. That would be petty. But I don't feel guilty either. Someone once asked me if I regretted being so cautious, if maybe I'd overreacted, if perhaps I'd destroyed a family over a misunderstanding. I pulled out my phone, showed them Linda's text. House is mine now. You should have read what you signed. Does that look like a misunderstanding? I asked. They didn't respond. Last week, Melissa called me. I don't know how she got my number. I need advice, she said, about Marcus's mother. What's happening? She's trying to get me to put her name on our car title. Says it's for insurance purposes. A pause. You went through this, right? With her? Yes. What did you do? I looked out my window at the city, thought about young women calling me one after another, all asking the same question, all married to men who couldn't say no to their mothers. Call my office Monday, I said. We'll set up a consultation. Thank you. She sounded close to tears. Marcus says I'm paranoid. That word again. You're not paranoid, I told her. You're paying attention. There's a difference. I poured another glass of wine and settled into my chair. Somewhere across town, Linda is living in Marcus and Melissa's spare room, probably planning her next move. probably confident that Melissa will be easier to manipulate than I was. Maybe she will be, maybe she won't. But if Melissa calls Monday, and I think she will, I'll teach her what I learned. How to protect yourself without apology. How to build walls that look like windows. How to let people think they've won until the moment you prove they've lost. Justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just quietly changes the locks and lets consequences do the rest. Sometimes it documents everything and waits. Sometimes it restructures property ownership on a Tuesday afternoon and doesn't mention it for 14 months. I take another sip of wine. Life goes on, and some of us read what we sign. The ones who don't usually learn eventually. I should know. I taught them.